today to sign the legislation extending the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
Yeah, that's Ronald Reagan back in 1982, which is important to remember today as Congress debates the SAVE Act, which would suppress those very same voting rights that Reagan spoke about all the way back in 1982.
Citizens must have complete confidence in the sanctity of their right to vote. Your vote is equal, your vote is meaningful, your vote is your constitutional right.
See, the SAVE Act would make it pretty hard to exercise that right, because to register to vote, you'd have to prove that you are a U.S. citizen, which doesn't sound like a big deal on the surface, but that's kind of the point, because 21 million eligible voters don't have access to that proof. That's roughly 10%. 140 million Americans don't have a passport. 1 in 10 don't have access to their birth certificate, and 69 million women have taken their husband's last name, which means their name wouldn't match the name on their birth certificate, which would make them ineligible to vote.
This act ensures equal access to the political process for all our citizens. In addition, the bill extends for 10 years the protections for language minorities, Americans of Mexican descent, Black Americans. This measure is as important symbolically as it is practically.
So the SAVE Act is especially tough on minority groups or citizens whose first language isn't English. A disproportionate number of Black and Hispanic voters don't have easy access to those proof of citizenship documents, not to mention the prohibitive cost of getting them if you don't have them, and the threats of jail time if somebody registers incorrectly, not exactly an incentive.
President Eisenhower said, "The future of the Republic is in the hands of the American voter. But with this law, we make sure the vote stays in the hands of every American."
Now, the White House will tell you that this is about voter fraud and keeping illegal immigrants from voting, except they don't, not really. In elections going back to 2003, they found about 4 cases a year. 4. And all of them were caught and prosecuted because it's already illegal for non-citizens to vote. And you don't have to look far to see what would happen if the SAVE Act was enacted into law, because Kansas has its own version of this legislation that blocked 30,000 people from registering to vote. 99% of them were U.S. citizens. Look, we already have embarrassingly low voter turnout rates here in the U.S. Why push to make it even worse?
Have they ever called off an election before, just said, look, just let's go on, 4 more years?
As I said before, the right to vote is the crown jewel of American liberties, and we will not see its luster diminished.
Between these two, I know who has my vote.